as time goes by, we're seeing that there are more and more amazingly successful women in business. But what we're also seeing is that there are some people who, although successful in business, are struggling in the area of love and relationships. And so I invited some special people with us today, Dr. Sarah Jameson and Ayanna Johnson, two accomplished women in their own right who have something to say about this idea of being successfully single. Let's go.
I'm super excited to be with you. I'm excited to be with you because I haven't seen you in years. What people don't know, let me tell you, Sarah. This is one of my longest standing friendships.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, like I think we met somewhere around when I was 8 or so.
Okay, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. We moved on the block and we had a whole crew that would run together, and it's a crew. We had a crew of people who would run together. We sang together. We played together. We got in trouble together. We did so it's good to see you.
I know. Good to see you too,
Good to
bro.
see you. And Sarah, I get the chance to see you every week.
Week to
Every
week.
week. Hey, yep. Who's that?
Is
that you?
I think fries are my thing, yeah.
I wish fries were in mine.
We can share.
That's the chickpea.
It's the I wish. That's the branzino right there. Look at God.
Oh, thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to keep the playlist?
I'll relinquish. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So anyway, we get to see each other all the time, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm almost done with planning out this whole season, and there was a specific subject that came up for me because here's the thing. So I have the blessing of having a lot of spiritual children, a lot of spiritual daughters in particular, and I get to hear their challenges. I get to hear some of their struggles in dating. And as I was thinking about them, I'm like, what is wrong? Like, what is the actual issue? Like, we need to dig into this to really figure it out. And I thought about you too, right? Because of what I've heard from them specifically is really that the more successful they became, the more difficult it was for them in dating. And you two are super accomplished, if I would say so. In your profession and your education and all of that stuff, and I know that there has been challenges in the dating scene. Ayana is now married, but some would say, because this is a weird thing, but some would say that it was a little later on in life. And so I wanted to talk about that. Can we talk about?
Yeah.
Can we talk about being successfully single? That's you see what I did there? Successfully
like
single.
that.
Y'all like what I did there?
I like that.
And so I want to throw this question out there. When did you first realize that some of your challenges with men actually was directly connected to your success? When did you realize it?
When? I don't know for me if there was like a definitive moment, but there definitely at some point became a pattern where it was just like, oh, is this actually a problem now? And when I say this, I'm talking about, like you said, being successful. Like, oh, this is actually like something that's not getting in the way, but is now like another a challenge, to put it lightly. Exactly. So there was no like one moment. I can think of specific examples of it being a tangible issue, but there was no like defining moment. It's just kind of been something that, as the years go by and I like get deeper into my career and more into, even my womanhood, it's just kind of like, oh, this is not easy. So yeah.
You made me want to ask you.
Me too.
I
want to ask about that, because that last piece about even as you got into your womanhood, and I wanted to know what you meant.
Well, the thing is I think there's truth to being like successfully single, or like success somewhat getting in the way of finding love. But I also think that just getting older and getting more mature, successful or not, carries with it certain, not difficulties, but certain nuances that make it a little bit more challenging. So when I speak about my womanhood, I've been living by myself on my own for 10 years. That has nothing to do with success, right? That has to do with being an adult who's used to like moving the way she needs to move, right? So some of it is, yes, having to do with like, you know, your job, your position, like you said, your success, maybe like what you have attained or achieved, but then others, or another part of it is just, like I said, just maturing. And
I never thought about that.
Yeah, just being now, you know, in your late 30s, it's not easy for anyone, I think, to just find someone and be like, oh, this, you know, like, because we're old dogs trying to learn new tricks, essentially. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's interesting. I'm so sad that you called a 30-something-year-old
Yeah,
old dog.
right. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, but the reason why that intrigued me, what you just said about into your womanhood, because as I was thinking, I felt to a certain extent, I always struggled because I was a smart kid. So, and I'm just thinking about your career, I'm like, you have to be a smart young lady as well. And so, did you deal with that a lot earlier? Like, either when you're younger, you downplay that you're a smart girl, right? So you just like fun, so nobody really knows that you're kind of like the smart kid, especially if you don't go to school with them. So it's like, it's okay. So, but when people started to, so I think even from teenage years, you know, but then you kind of mask it easier. When you are like going through a career, you know, and starting to move up the ranks and being excited about, you know, everything that you do, it becomes a pattern where, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but the pattern that, weird enough, that I ran into a lot is someone always wanted to do something for me. Like, I can't, you could have. I mean, you could have paid to get my hair done, but I didn't ask for you to pay for my hair or my nails, whatever. And I've had someone be like, well, you don't really need anything. And I'm like, yeah, I need you to be faithful. I need you to just like, that, you know, the simple things.
That's the
and
one.
That's what started coming out a lot when I
That's the
realized
one.
the success thing is an issue, not because I flaunted money. I wasn't flaunting money. It was
Right.
just like, I'm, you know, or career, but who you are shows, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times guys felt there was nothing they could offer me.
Go ahead.
But I wonder how much of that is actually innate, right? Because I think, maybe it's not innate, right? Nature versus nurture, right? There is this idea that as a man, the responsibility is to provide, right? That is what we do. And so if I don't get an opportunity to provide, what do I do now? I think that's challenging for a man that only sees their role as that.
But that's the problem, that men are more than just a wallet to a woman, right?
So what are they? That's the better question. What do you want them to be?
Listen, I did not mind any man being a provider.
Neither me.
My father was always a provider,
Right.
so that sort of thing. But it's the way they always felt like they had to provide. Like, you know, and I just found certain individuals were asking specific things. They saw provision in a specific small way.
Yeah.
You know, pay for me to go. Let's go out on a date. I don't need to pay. Go ahead. You pay for it. You could listen however you want to do it. But if it wasn't like, I don't even know how to. If it wasn't like specifically, I see you're needy. Like you where your needy is, and I can see exactly where I can fit.
Yes.
Then I don't know how I can provide.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's almost like this, I've always felt like because I'm low maintenance, men read that as no maintenance.
Wow.
So like, I'm not asking you to get my nails done, my hair done.
Right.
Not because I wouldn't appreciate it, or not because I wouldn't like it. It's just because it doesn't really
need it.
occur. Not just that I don't need it, but it doesn't occur to me. Because again, this is where I was talking about just womanhood. Like, I'm
been doing that.
gonna take care of what I need taken care of. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily occur to me to ask for money. You know.
Yeah.
But just because I don't ask doesn't mean that, one, like I said, it's not appreciated. It doesn't mean that it's not wanted. It may not necessarily be like, I need
Doesn't
this.
mean you can't offer.
But yeah, it's nice, you know? I can buy myself flowers. I do buy myself flowers. But like, how much nicer and sweeter is it when
Yes.
it's from somebody, you know, from like an interest, from a love interest,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And I don't think that is really understood very well with dealing with like the successful woman, which also is a label that feels very like Tyler Perry.
But why? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, but you know what you hear when you hear that,
It's
or
the
you know what you
connotation.
think when you hear that.
Yeah.
Exactly, you're thinking like, nah,
Almost
I
like a
don't
strong
need
black
no.
woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't need no man. It's like, okay, I'm a successful woman, but I'm a woman. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing. There's when you strip away like degrees and incomes and all that stuff, like we're still women.
Yes.
Like I still want to be taken out. I still want to be treated nicely. You know.
Yeah.
One thing that I always speak about with my friends or whomever is that like, you know, my job is super stressful, is super demanding. If you ask me, I have the hardest job in the world. I don't care. Don't argue with me. You know, that's how I feel
I
about
don't know
myself.
if I would really argue much with that. That's a hard job.
I feel like it's the hardest job in the world. So I have so much to deal with at work that when I'm home, I want to not make a decision. I want to not be in charge of, like, I want actually the exact opposite of, I want to be the opposite of what you think of when you hear about a successful woman in my personal life.
Yeah.
When I'm with you, I just want to make sure my lipstick looks good. I want to make sure I like my outfit. You know what I mean? I want to worry about how cute I look, not calling shots. And I think there's this perception that the successful woman wants to wear the pants, you know,
in every area,
right?
Everything. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do it, right? I'm the only man at the table, so I'm gonna say this because I think, and this is, you know, I ain't got this story, but I've heard enough stories, right? I think there are some people who would argue, there are some men who would argue that although some women say that, that it doesn't always play out that way in real life, like. Go ahead, jump in.
But this is the reality. They're not going to see those other areas, right? So it's not that it doesn't play out. Like if you only see me in ministry, you're thinking one role, one way. Have you ever sat down to have a conversation with me to find out what is my other way, my softness, the other things? Like sometimes you have to take a person out of that element to see them in another element to realize, oh, there is another side of you.
Right.
And I think that's what shapes or colors that thought or that assumption.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say though, I do think what you said, there is a little validity in it. Not a little, there is validity in it. Because I always say, oh, I want someone to, you know, who's gonna be able to take charge. And my friend is like, no, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, I do. She's like, no, you don't. I know you. I know your personality. Like, you like being in charge. And I don't, like I said, I don't think that's all the way true. Like you mentioned, nurture versus nature, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm used to having to like be one way at work.
Used to it, yeah.
I'm used to it. And it serves me very well at work. You know what I mean? Because not only is my job hard in and of itself because of the actual job, but within the industry that I'm in, it's a male-dominated, an old white man-dominated profession, and I'm the opposite of all of it. So I have to be super like brolic when I'm at work, but it serves me very well.
Yeah.
And because work is such a huge part of our lives, it is sometimes difficult to toggle
Yeah.
and like turn it off when it doesn't serve you. You know what I mean? So I know personally that's something that I usually have to kind of like toe the line with when it comes to dating. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like you have had the opportunity to express that to someone who would actually hear the truth of that statement?
Yeah. As in like have I...
Like, have you been able to sit with them and say, hey, here's the deal. I'm this way. What you see on the outside is because of this setting that I am in consistently. But this is really what I want. Can you stick around to...
Yeah.
Okay, how's that? How is that conversation going?
It's well received, to be honest. It's kind of like, okay, I get it. Because I think a lot of people, what my experience has been is when I do meet people, the thinking is okay, she's a girl who likes to be in charge, I'm gonna let her be in charge. And I have to have the conversation that I just had where it's like, nah, actually no. And it's like I said, it's well received. Other things get in the way, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something that's communicated and understood for the most part.
I ask that because I think sometimes, and I don't think this is even about necessarily this one conversation. I think even if we broaden the conversation, I think sometimes we are holding people responsible for needs that haven't been communicated. And so that's why I ask that, because I think sometimes some men are like, I didn't know that.
Right.
Like, I was kind of following what I thought to be your lead, and no one ever really communicated what you actually wanted. And I think that's one of the struggles that people
I think that's really key, the idea of communicating that need, and sometimes really putting these things out there a lot earlier. this is a day we have to be direct. We cannot assume that
Right.
anyone. Well, you should know. Why should the person know? Oh, I smiled at it. What did that mean? You know,
Right.
like what they're assuming from you is not the same for the next person. So, yeah, definitely communicating that need is really key.
The idea of purpose partners is not about our businesses being intertwined, but it's really about my life, right? Like, what do you bring? What role, what value do you bring to my life? So, for example, somebody might not be in alignment with my business idea, but I got the business part on lock. But personally, I can be imbalanced. And so they bring balance to my life. They're the person who can bring me out of business mode and really make me calm, right? And really allow me to focus on something outside of that realm. And I need that in order to balance my life. And so I think a part of identifying your purpose partner is you even understanding what your areas of weakness are. I believe that if the Lord is sending somebody to me, it's because I have a deficit somewhere. Otherwise, I wouldn't need you. I don't need people for the areas that I'm strong in. I need people for the areas that I am weak in. So I think that a part of identifying if this person is for me is to really identify what it is that I am weak in. What is he sending strength to? Because that's where they belong.
How did you know specifically that this was different than the experiences with your husband, that this was different than what I've experienced? Because you had, you know, several experiences of like, oh, no, that ain't it. Right. How did you know that, wait, something has shifted now?
Right. It's so funny because my husband still jokes and he's like, "Oh, your friends told me she's bossy. Look out for her." He always says that. And
Not
I'm
look
like,
out.
I was like, not everywhere. Stop, right? But it was interesting because I remember specifically. Now I gotta get a little deep for the moment
Yes, all right.
I needed that really. I remember specifically sharing. My gifts and my talents. Mm-hmm. And I've been in, I can maybe count one other relationship where I was able to be fully me and the person received that they just weren't the one for me, right? We weren't for each other. Mm-hmm. But a good person that could receive that. I remember distinctly like sharing like my poetry, something that I had written for this dude, which was my husband. I said, this dude, my husband. And I remember specifically something about feeling like, you could share your heart with him. Like this is really what your heart is safe with him, yeah. Right? Because anyone would probably just see armor and my heart. And literally, as I was reading the poem, he just kind of paused and literally said the same words. He was like, he was like, the Lord let me know I need to be careful how I handle your heart. Like literally, like I remember telling you, I was just like. Dude, he was like such and such. He was like, remember that. Don't forget that. I was like, okay, I won't forget it. But that was like that defining moment that I could show a vulnerable side of me, and he recognized it was coming from my heart. It wasn't just this is a poet speaking. No, this was coming from this person's heart. She's expressing her emotion through this artistic venue, and he heard that, and that's what I was like, whoa, okay. He saw the other side of me, and not just whatever anyone thought. Yeah.
Is there such a thing? Because you use that word, the V word, right? Vulnerable, right? So, is there a time that is too soon for vulnerability? And how do you know when it's time to be vulnerable?
Yeah, there's a time when it's too soon.
You said that was quick. Yeah, it's a time.
Only because I feel like you really have to use wisdom and discernment, right? Sometimes, now soon is not necessarily like 2 days into it, a month into it, but it is time spent with the individual, right? Because vulnerability is saying, can this person handle this part of your vulnerability that you're sharing? That only comes from time spent, conversations, good conversations that you've had, So I think there's a time when it's too soon. If you haven't delved into some deeper conversations, if you haven't spent quality time together, I don't mean texting back and forth. Right. I don't mean just Marco Polo to each other, but I mean some time spent, then it's too soon.
Yeah, I think, okay, so here's my connection for that. I think that some things that could be perceived as a man being intimidated by success is not that at all. I think that there's an intimidation with vulnerability that is given too soon. That there's a space that's like, wait, I didn't I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready for that yet. And I think that could be. I think vulnerability within itself is frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is literally what you are putting yourself in a space of being open, and I think openness is always frightening. And I think when that is done too soon, that becomes the issue. It's not I'm jealous of your success or I'm intimidated by your success. It's I'm intimidated by this level of vulnerability and transparency at this stage in the game. And I think that I think relationships have rhythm. There's a rhythm to a relationship, right? And it's almost like when you are too vulnerable too soon, you're off beat. Right? And I think that sometimes we've got to check, like, was it my success, or was it like I was off beat? We would he was dancing to a different song, right? And I think to the point of like wanting to be led, let him lead me in this and not go to a place that he's not at yet.
I think that's kind of the way dating is in your late 30s, because
I ain't got time to waste.
you know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing?
What is this? What are
we doing? And that's not just as a woman. That's on the side of both of them. Yeah. It's on everyone's side. We want to very quickly sift through what's happening. You know what I mean? And that probably is a really awful thing.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the struggle. And on one end, I think what you're saying makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, time is ticking. I get that. But also, I think anything hurried, like the end result of that is never as good as the thing that has been, well crafted, over time. And so I think we kind of.
It's a catch-22. Yeah. It really is.
I'm thinking about the idea of being a successful woman. Is sometimes when you use to success, whatever that looks like for you, moving, then you enter into other things expecting it to move at that same rhythm.
Yeah.
So so I feel like it's twofold. Are you being too open, too transparent, too vulnerable too soon? But is it still connected to your success? Because we have a rhythm of success. So like, I'm used to moving like this, blah, blah, blah. So, at this point, this should have been here. What's the goal? What's the outcome? And it's like, well, that's the way I move, but it's a little bit of both. So maybe it's not that they saw a success. You were used to operating, or we were used to operating at a rhythm of success, which we didn't think about, are we at that stage in our relationship?
Right.
You know?
Ooh, I love the rhythm of success that has blessed me on today. The rhythm of success has blessed me, because I think that's the thing. And I think when everything is about I don't know, the only way I can say it is achievement. I think relationships have to fall into a different category. It's not this like, let me get it, let me grab it, because I think okay, let me say this, because because this is something that I feel like I've seen having spiritual children. I think this is what I've seen out of this newer generation. I feel like relationships, marriage in particular, is a box to check off.
It is.
It's, degree, got it. Now entrepreneurship is a box too, right? Nobody works for companies anymore. They only start them. Like, check, got that, check. And I feel like marriage, kids, it's like, check the boxes. But what I've also seen is that once the box is checked, I don't see the same. I hope I'm not gonna get myself in trouble. I don't see the same level of attention and care anymore once I actually got it. And so I think it is connected to success and achievement.
But see, you're right about that. I also think, though, that is because married people are not.
Hello.
I'm sorry.
I'm
gonna be honest, and I'll say this: I'm gonna get in married people's business, because married people love being in our business. Married people love being in single people's business. But no, I think married people. It's true. I think married people are not really honest with what marriage is.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
I think we look at singleness as, like you said, the way we look at marriage as a box to check off, we look at singleness as almost like this purgatory that you have to dwell in until you finally are this actualized person who's now worthy of the blessing of marriage. Marriage is a blessing. I know it is. But it's also just a different side of life, right? Like, I don't, one message that I hear very frequently in churches, in churches, is like, well, when you finally such and such and such, God will give you that husband, that wife. It's always, singleness is always looked at as like
there's something you're doing incorrect.
yes, like there's a badge. It's like a badge that you have to earn before being able to go to the next stage. And I'm like, when can we stop that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And not to say that I desire to be married, but I also feel like there is value in being single.
Yeah, I mean, Paul talked about that. So if you read your Bible, you'll know that that's not
Right,
true.
it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And this is something that I've mentioned to people before, and they get angry. But I'm like, everybody want to be like Jesus, but nobody want to be single. And like Jesus was single. You know what I'm saying?
Talk
Like,
about that.
you know, and I just feel like why don't we celebrate the
Yeah.
value in being single the
Yes.
way we celebrate the
love
value
that.
in being married? Because there is
I
value in
agree.
being single.
I agree. You know, it's so funny, and I think sometimes we look at being single as a season to pass through.
Yes.
When the reality is,
Yes.
what if you're called? Not, I shouldn't even say called to be single. What if that's your place?
That's
Because
it.
you're doing
Yeah.
Right.
The Bible even tells us how you can please God more when you're single
Right,
because you don't have to
right,
care of the things
right,
of your house. And
right,
your husband.
right,
And,
right.
Like it's true. It is
Right.
really true because you don't have to. You can. If you want to fast 3 days, go ahead. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do this. You can.
Right.
You know what I mean? You like on fire. You can do whatever you want. You can travel. You can get up whatever and do whatever you want without any regard to anybody else. And I think if we start changing, it's true. Marriage is working. I didn't get married till my late 30s. And I saw from my parents that marriage was work. So, and my parents, thank God, never rushed me to be like, get married, get married. I don't ever remember hearing that from either one of my parents, right? You need to be married, you need to be married. You know, they were like, oh, you did another book? Great. You did. I'm like, I think y'all want me to be single forever. Like, just do something to make y'all proud. I don't know. But it's true because if more married people, honestly, were more transparent and honest in saying, okay, yes, this is a beautiful thing. I love this person, but let's talk about how this was a trying thing. Or I often say to people, no one ever puts on social media when they are taking pictures when they were arguing. You know,
Right.
everything is like,
Right.
Because you don't want to take
right,
no
exactly,
picture.
right. I don't want
Ain't no
picture.
proof of that
Exactly.
But we need to share that because if that's the case, we wouldn't be rushing the next person into being married, and we would allow them to be successfully single.
Yeah.
Because you're not rushing them as if it's a pass-through phase.
Right,
Yeah.
You know how
right.
much
It's
you can,
true.
You
Yeah.
can do freely.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think being single has its pros and cons, just like being married has its
Yes, it
pros and
does.
cons. I don't think one is one valued by. Well, I don't know, but I don't think one is more. I truly don't think one is better than the other one. I think they are just two different
Yeah.
things,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's like when you, like I said, when you earn this, it's like, come on, like, you know, being single is wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that I can literally pick up and go whenever I want to.
And you go.
And I go.
Okay.
Okay. I go. You know what I mean? When it comes, and that's like whether it's leaving to go to church, I don't gotta wait for nobody.
Right.
Whether it's leaving to go to
That's a
Egypt,
real
I don't gotta
thing.
wait for
Yeah.
nobody. Exactly. Like, you know, like there are benefits, but then of course, like yes, it's like okay, I want to see the world, but I want to see the world with somebody, right? I know there are good and bad things about each one, and I don't think we want to see married people, like you said, like showing we fighting today. Like I don't want to see that. You know what I mean?
Take this
Right. We don't need to see it to know. But in terms of just like the way it's presented, you know, like I said, I think we can be a little bit more honest with each other. In terms of like, yeah, like it's a good thing, but there are also things that you need to be ready for before deciding that this is something that you want, and not like a before you can earn. Like I said, it's always looked at as like you're not here yet.
Yeah.
And it's like.
I think one of you two said it, but I love the idea of it not being about a staging, right? Like, because I almost feel like that, like, I think specifically with women, if we can be honest, it happens more with you guys than men. Nobody really rushes men to be
Never.
married. But for women, it's like, prepare now in your singleness for
Always.
marriage. It's not like, hey, like, just prepare your heart for the Lord, or
Always.
prepare, prepare to be successful. It's
Yeah.
hey, prepare
Yeah.
for this specific thing.
And people give
Yeah.
very weird advice also.
Like what?
Like married.
Please tell.
Well, this is the thing. Married people are always like, you got to put yourself out there, girl. And it's like,
That's weird.
it's weird.
It's weird.
I'll
It's
be
giving
like,
weird.
well, where'd you meet your husband? Church. the grocery store, work, the most normal places.
Right.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
you gotta put yourself
you
out
gotta
there.
you gotta travel, see the world. Okay, well, where'd you go? Well, I didn't really get to travel before I got married, but I wish I had. It's like you're giving this advice as though you had some cheat code when at the end of the day, you know,
It just happened when it happened.
It just happened
Yeah.
when it happened. Hopefully it was when God said it was supposed to happen, and that's how that happened. So given all this, like I said, little tidbits that you didn't necessarily take yourself to get there, or again, getting there, making it sound like a final destination.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of our language regarding marriage and singleness is very like biased one toward the other, and I wish we would
And
stop.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you, so I'm like,
Yeah, I was just like, because I don't tell single people because I was single for a very long time and I'm just like, whatever. And I was cool with that. And I got to a place of contentment in my singleness, and then boom, I turned around to get in there. And I'm like,
You were just fine.
like I was just like, I'm good. Yeah. Like contentment is what I found in my singleness and whatever else. But it's, like I would put myself out there. Now let me phrase what that means.
Yeah, please clear it up for saints.
Listen, I see a lot of putting self out there.
Right.
I'm not talking about that. Like
Right.
it's like, okay, I look really good. Let me show everything, or
Right.
let me go date with whoever. Let me be in every environment. No. But I like did different things. Like I'm like, okay, if there's not a lot of men in my church, and I'm looking for a Christian man, or I want a Christian man to find me, it's not going to be in my church. Maybe he'll walk in the door. Who knows? Whatever, right? But let me go and do life, and
Yes.
that's what putting myself
that
out there
means,
was.
right.
Doing life. It was traveling. It was creating stuff, and you meet people along that way. Not just feel like you have to sit in a box and like, okay, I'm just waiting. No, when you begin to, do life. That's what I mean by putting yourself out there. Like you're just getting caught up in the beauty of like, oh my gosh, I just created that. Or maybe I did start a business, or maybe I did move up the ladder in my job, or maybe I just traveled and saw like a lot of great countries. That was putting yourself out there, because then you're going to surround yourself with other people that you have some common interests with. And then things happen, you know? So that's where I was kind of like, I kind of say that. I kind of did that, but this is what I mean by it. That's what I was thinking.
Vulnerability is earned. It is not something that we just freely give. And so I think that in order to determine whether or not it's time to be vulnerable, I don't think it's a be vulnerable or not. I think it's the levels of vulnerability. And so you give somebody a little bit and you see how they handle the little bit that I gave you. And then little by little, you begin to increase once you see that there is some proper handling of your vulnerability. I think that's the thing that we miss. It's not just about me giving, it's about me assessing what you did with what I gave you. And a lot of times we miss the assessment process. Let me see what you did when I gave you a piece of my heart. And then once I see that you're worthy, then I'm gonna give you some more.
So I have this question.
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
So some people would say, right, that there are a lot of people who are single, not because of this fear of success thing, not because of, but really because they're super picky, right? How do you think that? Do you relate to that?
It's true.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, I think there's some truth to that.
And I was there.
And I think especially as the more successful you get, I think you become a little bit more like, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that. But let's talk about it. It's this face like, it's this face like, are you coming for me?
Like I felt like she was like, you got to be picky. You got No, but no, I think it is true. And so let me just talk for me.
Yeah, I know you now. I can talk for you.
But because you are like, okay, because of the unknown, it's like, I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. And I had to get to the place being picky and not being picky is not settling. So those two aren't equated. Not picky is not settling. That's not the same thing. But it's really about saying, well, let me be open to what am I thinking about? If I think I want like a caring man, what does caring really look like? What does that feel like? If I want a godly man, what does that look like?
I can speak for myself. If you saw the roster, you would know I'm not picky. I'm actually not picky. If you saw
Just taking me out.
the talent, you would know that clearly I'm not picky enough. Clearly I'm not picky enough. That's the issue probably. But you know, I do think there is, again, like this idealized idea, if you will, of what marriage is supposed to look and be and who you're supposed to be marrying, right? Like, again, Tyler Perry, like the man in the Tyler Perry movie, right? He sings in the choir, he, you know, fixes the house, like this guy.
And he's a mechanic.
And he has a great relationship with his mother, and, you know, and it's just like, this person does not exist.
Right.
He just doesn't exist.
No.
And I think it takes it took me a really long time to realize, oh, that person does not exist. You know what I'm saying? Just because nobody's perfect, just like I have my stuff.
Yep.
Everybody has their stuff. One thing that I'll say, being single, especially in the past, I would say like 3 or 4 years has afforded me is the chance to really like work on me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like for real, for real, for real. Yep. Where I've now said like, if this is, you mentioned it before, but if this is what I expect from somebody, are you what you're looking for? You know, are you the female version of what you're looking for? And it's like, if you can't answer that question on the physical aspect, the spiritual, the emotional, the intellectual, whatever it is, like, and like I said, I have really like taken a lot of pleasure with being able to say like, okay, like I'm my project. I'm my own project. Because a lot of times we do meet someone and they're our project now. Now it's like, now I can work on making you be who I need you to be, and it's kind of like, right, which doesn't work. But also, you are the project that you need to be working on, and that way, you will be ready when he or she comes along and is to be the person that they are to be for you. You're now prepared for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of single people, where we miss it because we're so focused on what the other person has or doesn't have, that we're not really focusing on, okay, well, what do you have or not have that is not working for what you're looking for?
Yes.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk to Me, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single thing, and we will catch you at the next talk.